like that, we back. YouTube University class is now back in session. RNG, episode 2. Now, just a quick disclaimer. I know that these first few episodes might be a little boring. Might be a little something that you don't feel like you want to hear, but I promise you, these concepts and these things that I'm talking about in these first few little boring videos, these first boring episodes, are going to be very integral, very important to actually learning and knowing what it is that you need to know so that you can actually have success as a musician. And these videos will always be here for you to come back to refresh your mind if you need a little reminder. What am I going to be talking about in this episode? I'm going to talk about 3 things in this episode. Pretty basic things, pretty foundational topics, of course. 1, what is this thing right here? It's a little dirty, but 2, what are these things? How do these things work? How do they connect to the piano? 3, the importance of practice. It's going to be a conceptual episode. As you see, I don't even have the keyboard up here because we don't need it, but we're just going to talk. So this thing right here is called a sustain pedal. This sustain pedal is always going to be a part of the piano. What it does is sustain.
Basically, you put it under the piano.
What the sustain pedal does is it sustains. You put it on the piano, you put your foot on it. When you press a note, you want that note to stop real quick, cut off, you let the sustain pedal be. You don't gotta touch it. But when you press a note and you want that note to keep going after you let the note go, you hit the sustain pedal. And then the sustain pedal will sustain the note until you let the sustain pedal up or until the note dies out. What are these? These, my friends, are fingers. You use these to play the keys of the piano. Now, in going forward, the way that I will refer to these fingers is by numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Finger number 1, finger number 2. Don't make me. Finger number 4, finger number 5. This is probably the most important thing that you're gonna get from RNG. These first few foundation episodes. The importance of practice. Don't nobody wanna hear it. Don't nobody wanna do it, but you got to.
You got to. You have to.
Now, for a long time, I didn't even know how to practice. I didn't know what to do. My mind is so all over the place that it's very hard for me to sit down and focus on one thing for a long time. It's hard. Because of that, that affected the way that I practice. So I wasn't able to practice effectively because 1, I didn't know how to, then just my brain just be so everywhere all the time, all over the place. It was hard for me to sit down and really practice. So because I don't want y'all to go through that, I'm gonna tell y'all how I figured out how to practice. And the way that I practice is no matter what you playing, no matter what you doing, just make sure that in order to be able to do it, you gotta think. It's that simple. No matter what you're doing, if you can't do it without thinking, you practicing. If you can do it without thinking, you playing. There's a difference between playing and practicing. When you sit down to practice, you want to practice. You don't want to play unless you want to. My mind be all over the place, so it's hard for me to do one thing and then just keep doing that thing over and over and over and over again. That's what they say, repetition makes mastery. That's hard for me. So the way that I practice is I go from this to that, to this, to that, to this, but as long as I'm thinking, I'm practicing. Because your mind is like a muscle. And when you focus on something and you think about it and you use your muscle, you can feel the mental fatigue. You can feel it. You can feel your brain getting tired. So if you're able to sit down and practice for any amount of time of merit and you can't feel your brain getting tired, you're not practicing, you're playing.
You playing.
You don't want to do that. You want to practice. Because practice is what's going to make you better. So when you go into your practice, it don't matter what you're practicing on, unless you have something specific that you want to practice on, something specific that you want to get better at. When you sit down to practice, no matter what, make sure that whatever you are playing, you have to think to be able to play it correctly. If you can play it without thinking, you're not practicing, you're not getting better. Maybe you need to speed it up, go a little bit faster. So now you got to think to be able to do it right. Maybe you need to do something else. Maybe that thing that you're trying to play is too easy for you. It's not taking any brain power. You want to do things in your practice time that require brain power, that require mental focus. And as long as whatever you're doing requires you to use your brain in order to do it correctly, you're practicing and you're getting better. Again, these first few RNGs, they're going to be boring, but you're going to thank yourself later on when we get to the not boring stuff. And it's coming. See y'all again.